The waves broke quietly that morning in the Pacific. Another day of patrol. Another routine deployment aboard a guided missile destroyer built not just for battle, but for symbolism. Its steel hull cut through the water with quiet precision, but the name on its bow carried an entirely different kind of weight. USS John Finn is not just another Arleigh Burke-class destroyer. It is a tribute in motion, a warship named after a man who stood alone on a runway under fire, firing back until he bled. And aboard this ship, his legacy still sails through missile drills, through combat exercises, and through waters where history echoes louder than orders. John William Finn was a chief aviation ordnanceman on December 7, 1941. When Japanese aircraft tore through the skies above Pearl Harbor, Finn did not retreat. He drove to the air station, dragged a machine gun to an open position, and fired at incoming aircraft for over 2 hours. Wounded, bleeding, exposed. He became the first Medal of Honor recipient of World War II. When the Navy announced that DDG-113 would bear his name, it was not just a decision of tribute, it was a statement. Every ship in the fleet carries weaponry. This one carries defiance. Since its commissioning in 2017, USS John Finn has operated across the Indo-Pacific. Armed with Tomahawk cruise missiles, vertical launch cells, and an Aegis combat system that turns the ship into a floating fortress, the destroyer is built for modern multi-domain warfare. But hardware alone does not define presence. It is the missions that make the reputation. In exercises near the South China Sea, John Finn has routinely pushed through contested waters, making clear that international law, not threats, will guide freedom of navigation. And those moves have not gone unnoticed. Chinese state media has labeled the ship provocative. Military analysts in Beijing track it closely, because presence in strategic waters is never just symbolic. Defense experts like Commander Thomas Shugart, a former submariner and fellow at the Center for a New American Security, have said that destroyers like John Finn are more than warships. They are chess pieces in a geopolitical board that stretches from Tokyo to Guam to the Strait of Malacca. When a destroyer with Tomahawks and an Aegis brain parks near a contested reef, nations take notice. And when it is a ship named after a man who once stood under fire alone, the message deepens. The ship's operations in the Philippine Sea, joint drills with the Japanese Maritime Self-Defense Force, and surveillance runs alongside carrier groups are all calibrated for one-purpose deterrence through visible power. Inside the Combat Information Center, the lights stay low and the screens stay lit. Data pours in from satellites, radar buoys, and allied sensors. At any moment, a track could light up that requires a response. A launch, a warning, a lock. For the sailors aboard John Finn, this pressure is routine. But that routine is what separates readiness from regret. In one instance, during heightened tensions in the region, the ship conducted a rapid simulated response to a missile launch. Within seconds, threat vectors were mapped. Intercept protocols were rehearsed. No shots were fired, but the capability was there, and it was tested with perfection.
The prestigious anti-submarine warfare Bloodhound Award and the Spokane Trophy for exceptional performance to their
The irony of modern naval warfare is that the most powerful ships often never fire in anger. Their value is not in destruction, but in prevention. But that does not stop USS John Finn from preparing like tomorrow may be the day deterrence fails. Live fire exercises with the Standard Missile 6, close-in weapon system, drills under harsh weather, electronic warfare jamming tests. Every sailor is expected to not just know their job, but to execute it under combat conditions. Rear Admiral Brendan McLean, former commander of Navy surface forces in the Pacific, once described John Finn as one of the most combat-capable destroyers in the entire fleet. Not because of what it has done, but because of what it is always ready to do. Walk the passageways of the ship, and you will find plaques, citations, photos of a man aiming a .50 caliber machine gun at dive bombers while bleeding from multiple wounds. That image is not decoration. It is doctrine. It reminds the crew what kind of name their ship carries. It is not a name earned in an office. It is a name earned on an airstrip, against impossible odds, under a sky filled with fire. Today's threats are not the same as Pearl Harbor. They come in swarms, hypersonic missiles, cyber sabotage, undersea drones. The destroyer is built with all that in mind. It is equipped for air, surface, and subsurface warfare. It can track targets over the horizon and coordinate with carrier strike groups or operate alone. Its presence off the coast of Taiwan during critical flashpoints is not accidental. Its deployments into the Sea of Japan are not routine. Every move is calculated. Every voyage is observed by adversaries with satellites and signals intercepts. And yet, it sails, because silence invites provocation. But steel presence, especially the kind with a Medal of Honor etched into its name, sends a different message. USS John Finn is not the largest ship in the fleet. It does not launch aircraft or carry thousands of troops, but in the calculus of conflict, it is a multiplier, a signal, a ship that reminds allies they are not alone and tells rivals that the sea is not theirs to claim. Its mission is constant, its training is unrelenting, and its legacy is immortal. Because long before this destroyer was built, a man stood in the face of fire and refused to fall. Today, his name sails again. And in every patrol, every drill, and every decision made aboard this ship, that spirit still fights. When USS John Finn enters a region like the East China Sea, or approaches waters near contested islands, the attention it draws is both immediate and calculated. Surveillance aircraft shadow its movements. Foreign destroyers increase their presence. Strategic analysts issue bulletins tracking its course. Yet the ship does not change pace. It continues forward, silent but unmistakable. Lieutenant Commander Aaron Walgren, who once served as a combat systems officer aboard an Arleigh Burke-class destroyer, has explained that ships like the John Finn are not only platforms of offense, but also of restraint. They give leaders options. They give diplomacy a visible shield. While political tension continues to simmer across maritime fault lines, USS John Finn plays a dual role. It is both sword and signal, ready to strike but calibrated to warn. The crew aboard USS John Finn come from every corner of the United States, from inland towns and coastal cities, from farms and factories. Some arrived with generations of military tradition. Others stepped aboard with no military background at all. But inside the hull, under stress and under pressure, they forge into a single machine. Each role is critical. Engineers below deck keeping propulsion running at exact tolerances. Fire controlmen training to operate missile systems with zero margin for error. Officers studying adversary maneuvers in real time. Their routines are built on repetition, but their discipline is built on purpose. And for many of them, the story of John William Finn is not just a name etched in steel, it is a challenge, a daily reminder that courage is not reserved for war heroes. It is required from sailors every day, in every deployment. Threats evolve, technology changes, but the reason ships like John Finn exist remains the same: to protect, to deter, and, if necessary, to strike. Each time the destroyer leaves port, it carries more than a crew. It carries history. It carries a man's decision to stand alone in fire. And it carries the modern Navy's answer to every adversary who miscalculates American resolve. In every radar ping, in every watch shift, in every long night, beneath open stars, USS John Finn continues its mission. Because as long as the world remains uncertain, ships like this must remain certain. Steel, precision, legacy. That is what sails with USS John Finn.